My name is Marie. I like to go by Ember. And today I'm going to talk about some spooky stuff while I spin yarn. And actually, what I'm spinning right now is going to be Dreamcatcher thread. I hand dyed the wool myself using Kool-Aid and made this really cool tie-dye stuff. Um, and I would like to call this spooks and spindles because a lot of what I do involves um like wool and things like that, but I also do some jewelry and other crafty things. And this is just something I can easily do while talking. Um so I guess where I should begin is the beginning with my first personal experience. I was about 5, and my family lives on quite a bit of land in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania has kind of a rich history of bloodshed, as most of America does. Um, the first spirit I ever saw was actually a man who was holding his own head. I didn't realize at the time, or I was about 5, and I didn't realize at the time that he wasn't actually alive. Um, he was actually a Native American spirit. And on my family's property, we have done some research and found that there was a battle here long ago, long ago, between settlers and Native Americans, and that's probably part of the reason I ended up seeing him. Um, but my family has a long history in our very small town of being kind of weirdos and freaks in the spiritual aspect of things. I myself classify myself as old world pagan. I follow a mixture of Norse and Native American beliefs. Um, there have been witches in my family in the past that have done some really bad things. Actually, my grandmother is completely terrified of witchcraft because her great grandmother, well, it would have been her grandmother, my great great grandmother, was a voodoo. I wouldn't want to say voodoo, it's more of a bastardization of voodoo. Back in the 50s and 60s, actually, when she passed, they found books bound in human skin and fetuses that she'd aborted from herself and used the parts in her attic and, animal bits and things like that. And that's actually really sad because it tends to put a stigma onto the good of things. And actually, um, when I had my first experience, and I thought I had just met a person, like to my 5-year-old brain, whatever I was seeing, whoever I was seeing was just another person. I was just playing in a cornfield. Well, I think at the time that it was just high grass because it was, from fuzzy memory, it was late summer. Um, and I had this tree that I'd always hang around and things like that. And my first experience was, to me, not that big a deal, but to my grandmother, who at the time was raising me, it was a very big deal because it was the first of many experiences, and I found out that our family in general tends to have a certain sensitivity to these kinds of things, but it's only certain ones of us. Um, and I think, believer or non-believer, burn me at the stake, what have you, it is my personal belief that our family's kind of witch blood and heritage to some point plays a huge factor in our sensitivity to these kinds of things. She actually started teaching me, to a point, the old ways from that point. Now, my family is a very Lutheran family, so me being taught these things kind of preemptively made me the black sheep. And I closed up about my experiences for a long time because a lot of my family saw them as evil. After my grandmother had passed, her I could talk to about these things. And my father, when I started living with he and my mother again, after she passed, he became the person I would go to about these things. But, this spirit stayed around for a while. He didn't just appear to me one day and go away. To a point, he was my first friend. Because as you can see, I'm a very large woman who likes very strange styles and things like that. And when I was smaller, my great-grandparents had a bluegrass group, so I was the kid that was always dressed like a little baby cowgirl all the time, and I was a show pony, essentially, because they dressed me up like Shirley Temple and made me dance, because I had this really long, curly hair that you guys are probably being blinded by the window behind me. Hold on. Let me close that curtain, blanket, whatever. That's probably much better. But, these are just things that, to me, growing up, were the norm. And as I became more aware that I was kind of different from other children in this spooky aspect, where my friends were these dead people that I didn't realize were actually dead because I was 5, and nobody really wanted to tell me that I was talking to the dead. They just told me these were my imaginary friends, but they were here to guide me. I have been given, at a young age, I was given the sense that the spirit world is not a bad thing. The spirit world is here to help. There is a reason for these things to be here, and sometimes that reason is that you need to help them. As this series continues, I want to make very many videos on my very many experiences, including some that I've already kind of posted on social media about my haunted workplace that I'm actually going to be leaving here soon. So I won't actually, after next week, I won't have any more haunted warehouse stories, and hopefully it stays that way. But this is going to focus more on my personal experiences through the years. This first video is just kind of background. And, pretty much how I view things. Because a lot of people see the paranormal as, something of a myth. And I do not. I see it as very much a reality that has been with me since an extremely young age, and has been kind of conditioning me and how I see the world in a very old-fashioned manner that is very open-minded to many things. Like, that headless man would follow me around the property, and a couple times he actually, helped me out of situations, because we have 20 acres, we have a lot of wildlife, and actually, he stopped me one time from going into a bear den. I was going a certain direction, and he told me to not. And we found out later that week that there had been a mother bear and her cubs, in that particular area. And, a lot of people say that things like this, they aren't real, they aren't They're figments of a child's imagination who is going through a traumatic situation, which when I had first started seeing him, I was not. I was a very happy kid who, ran all over the country with my grandparents in a motorhome singing bluegrass music, which sounds a little hokey, but that was my childhood. Up until the age of 7, we traveled all over the place, and I have experiences from all over the place. Um, but this man is I found out at about the age of 13 that this man is one of 12 spirits that, to a point, are guardians to this property, because my family has lived here for very many years, and we actually, to a point, have some family lore about this place, about where we live, and I find it all very fascinating. And as the years go by, I'm uncovering more and more of it. Part of it actually being my aunt had gotten into the occult and things like that as a teenager, and our property's already jaded history and already like bloodbath history has led to some very interesting spirits that she released on accident with in a Ouija board when she was about 13. I found this out when I hit about 17, and that's why I was seeing some of the stranger things that happen on our property. But this is all I really have time for today. I will be making more videos as time goes on, and for the first few of them, till this is all spun up, I will be spinning yarn while I spin you guys. Well, it's not really spinning a yarn because these are my experiences, but I will spin stories as I spin yarn. Thank you. Bye. Please subscribe if you want more.